Hello, everybody. Hope you're well. It is Friday, 12 o'clock. You know what time it is. You know what's going to be happening. Absolutely. It's good to see you all on this. I know last week I said that it was the weather was getting better, but I think we had snow this morning, so I don't quite know what's going on. Foxy, you have beaten Nina. You have beaten Nina, but unfortunately, yeah, as you say, she's not coming today, so she's got better things to do. I can't imagine what she has better to do than the Get Hired LinkedIn Live. I don't know what that could be, but however, I'm sure she's going to enjoy it. But I no doubt she will catch this on the recording, which of course everybody can do. As ever, look, say hello to everybody. Introduce yourself. If you're new to the Get Hired LinkedIn Live, make sure you say hello, and also tell us where you are, whereabouts in the world you reside. We're having a fascinating topic today because our special topic and what we've been discussing this week is all about networking. It's the subject that I think puts a lot of fear in everybody about how to actively network, probably because in our mind's eye, what we all have is that idea of all of these people in the past who, these business people networking and being all, trying to talk to it. And if you're not quite so extrovert, it can fill you with absolute dread. But what we're going to do today is sort of go through all of the ideas of how you can get through networking without it feeling really cringy. And that's the main bit, is how to make sure that we don't do it that is really cringy. Perhaps also let us know your ideas and how you feel about networking. Is it something that you particularly enjoy doing? Is it something that fills you with utter dread and fear? But whatever it is, but let us know where it is. Jenny, great to see you as well. An overcast Surrey. I know it just seems to be like this everywhere at the moment. But we're as I said, we actually had snow, and it like heavy snow for around about 20 minutes. None of it landed, but there was quite a lot of it going on there. Foxy, I really suck at networking when I'm in a room full of people I don't know. I become really shy and just don't talk to anyone. I have the same feeling when you're in the physical act of networking. Absolutely, you can still have that. I have to just build up all that courage and then start getting going and start to go and say hello and start talking, having discussions and stuff like that. It is super tough to do, and I think that's what most of it is. I don't think that's unusual, Foxy. I think most people actually think exactly like that, because it is getting yourself way out of your comfort zone. It is a real problem, I think, for people. But look, before we get to networking, let's talk a little bit about why we're talking about networking and why that is such a useful way to find a job, to get out there, to go and find something. And as we know, the real issue is that at the moment, the traditional form of trying to find a job, which is you get your CV, you apply for it, you mass applications, and you send it all out there, and you're getting nowhere because there are massive competition. AI has taken its toll on job seekers out there, which are allowing job seekers to mass apply more than they've ever been able to do. I saw one the other day, a tool that was being offered to candidates where they said that they could guarantee 500 applications in one day. 500. I mean, where's the value in that? What on earth? It's just pure volume of thinking that's the best way to try and do it. Let's just fire as much as we can do into the system and see if that works. And of course, what that means is recruiters are absolutely massively overwhelmed with applications. They're drowning in them. There's just too many there for them to deal with. Therese, hi. Hope you're well. I love networking when I'm out there physically. Digital networking, though, is really different. Well, that's good, because I think a lot of people, it's probably the other way around. But I think in actual fact, it's not the other way around. I think a lot of people probably think, I hate it doing physical networking, and digital networking is even worse. It becomes really confusing. And I know what you mean, Therese, because I think people have applied a little bit like the sort of job application process. They've applied what their thinking is of networking online to what they were probably doing 15, 20 years ago. And it is very, very different now as well. Greg, hi. Great to see you from Beaconsfield. Charles, hello from Barnes as well. I hope that's going well. You're 50-50 about networking. I read that you should always be able to give something to the person you're networking with as well as take something away. Look, it's a good philosophy as well. And we'll talk a little bit about exactly that process of what makes good networking as we talk about that a little bit later on in this session as well. I can see a few more. Ruth, great to see you as well. Don't worry if you're ever being late. It doesn't matter at all. We don't clock watch here, so that you're okay. Digital is so blind. I think a lot of you are probably going to be coming up with that as well. So look, we know that the point of these sessions and what we're talking about is that job applications on their own is not enough. It isn't working. The system is broken very badly because of the way that the whole recruitment process is evolving. And part of that is because of technology. And part of that is because of the way that things like LinkedIn has really changed the game. And LinkedIn is a game changer, and especially for job seekers out there. So look, what are the biggest sort of myths about networking? Because there's plenty out there that we have. And one of the biggest ones is that I think that what people think is networking online is that I just need to send messages to people. I give them my CV. I couldn't even keep count about how many messages I get into my inbox on LinkedIn, which is clearly a fairly standard, repetitive message. So it's very generic, which basically says, "Hi, I'm looking for a job. Here's my CV." And I literally get hundreds of these, not quite hundreds a day, but certainly many numerous hundreds a week that I will get. Now, I think that clearly what that's happening is I'm not the only person that's getting that. I suspect all the recruiters out there are probably getting this. And it always baffles me, because the thinking behind doing that is that I'm applying for jobs, I'm putting hundreds and hundreds of applications in and getting nothing back because recruiters are overwhelmed. I know what I'll do. I'll send them even more messages and more CVs to try and complicate it even further for them. And that's what's happening. And that's what recruiters will end up thinking. So if your strategy is, from a networking point of view, I'm just going to reach directly out to somebody, send them a message of someone I've never met before, never spoken to before, and just attach my CV and tell them I'm looking for a job. Here's my CV. Don't do it. It very, very rarely works. And just in the same way that all of these spam messages that we get saying that you've won 60 million or something like that, or asking for your mother's maiden name and this, that, the other, it's not going to work. And I think people, especially in this day and age now, are becoming pretty immune to getting those kind of email messages. So it's just no point to do it. You haven't got there's no relationship there. So there's no trust. And so what will end up happening is that those people will just delete it, move on, ignore it. It's not going to happen whatsoever. So what is the answer to it? Because LinkedIn is definitely the answer. And it's probably one of the best networking tools that has ever been created. You've got 1.2 billion people that you have access to. It is an amazing bit. And the best way to look at it is sort of thinking, well, what's the equivalent? And I think it was a little bit early on where Therese was mentioning about the fact that physical networking she was good at, but online networking, super not sure. So what is that physical networking that you have? In the old days, it used to be that we would go off to conferences or industry events, those kind of things, drinks after business hours, drinks, you all get together. And what I remember years ago, when I was first going out into sales, you would go to these different conferences with a bucket load of your business cards that you would be giving out to people, having conversations with them, collecting business cards back from people, having that sort of, and that was the networking back in the day, because there was no LinkedIn, there was no capability of being able to do that. The sort of the modern networking essentially on LinkedIn comes in three different forms. It's creating content on LinkedIn, having comments, engaging with people, and starting to have conversations. So it's more or less, it's the online version of doing all of these conferences and everything else like that. But the benefit is you can do it from home with a nice cup of coffee. You can relax a little bit, and it's a lot easier and so much more scalable. The conferences were only happening once every 2 months or so. So, here, every single day, it's on. Therese, I'm much better, exactly, face-to-face, and would like some advice around how to get a coffee lunch with old contacts without sounding desperate and what to offer back. So that's a really good point. And, in actual fact, it's, I mentioned about going on Amelia Sordell's LinkedIn Lives and on her live sessions. She does an amazing process and a book on personal branding. It really helped me start out in what we were doing here and this whole journey that I've been going on. But one of the things that she talks about is that she also says about exactly this point, where she will pick people that she wants to do and goes out and asks an invite to say we should go and have a physical cup of coffee. Let's go and get a cup of coffee. Now, she will talk about that, about people of future clients. So people she doesn't particularly know, but she's going to reach out to them to say, let's set up a coffee, let's have a coffee meeting, there's that. It's a great, and she's worked out the majority of them say no, but a lot of them will do it. So look, I think that there is a good strategy to add that into the whole process of what you do. But I think the most important thing to bear in mind here is this, is that just when I was first learning about sales, I was always told this, that you're not going to make that sale from that first point of contact. You might do, you might be lucky, and you might ring somebody and do that. Bear in mind, this was before all of this, all of the LinkedIn, etc. You might do that with an initial phone call, but the likelihood it isn't. And the reason for that is that you have no trust there because they don't know you. They don't trust you. They don't know what experience, they don't know what value you've got. They don't know what problem you can solve. And it takes up to 7 points before somebody will learn to trust you, and your likelihood of closing a sale rises up to about 80-odd%, whereas on the first point, it's about 10. Now, you transfer that exact same philosophy to networking on LinkedIn. If you're reaching out at the first point, you're unlikely to really match that because nobody knows who you are. They don't know what value you have. They don't know what problems you solve. So that's why you have to have the whole strategy we constantly talk about, that networking on LinkedIn is not about, I'm just going to go and reach out. I'm just going to go and ask for a coffee. I'm going to engage with that. It's about starting to do a much more strategic plan across the board of what it is that you wish to do. So the first point that you have, and let's talk about it, look, because to my mind, there are 3 key pillars that you need to look at in terms of LinkedIn networking. The first one we talk about is personal branding, because you need to see who it is that you are. And remember, and that your personal branding is your LinkedIn profile. So start at your LinkedIn profile. Make sure that it's fully optimized. Remember, your profile is not your CV. It isn't there just to replicate what you do in your CV and then that's it. You never do anything again. It's there to say, what problems do you solve? If someone can't go onto your LinkedIn profile and not see what problem you solve, then it's not doing the job. That's what it's there to do. And of course, what we want to make sure is, and why it's so important to get your LinkedIn profile up, is because we're going to start attracting as many people to it as possible. That is your shop window. That is where people, when they're coming onto your profile, they want to see what your expertise is. They want to see what credibility you have. They want to see that sort of clear positioning of your value proposition, what it is that you can add there. So it's really important to make sure you've got a clear headline, who it is that you are, what you solve, your strong about section. I've noticed in a lot of about sections that people have there, it's pretty long and it's really, it's just full of writing. Split it all up, bullet point it, make it clear about what problems you're solving, and also sort of evidence of the impact that you've done. So it's absolutely okay to talk about things that you've done in the past, but do it in a way, not just labeling I did X, I did Y, but talk about the problems that you solved and what value that you added into the business as well. Hello, LinkedIn user. Small talk and the initial introduction at events is really challenging. Well, look, we all think that. We all think that. And I will, even though I'm going to concentrate a lot on LinkedIn networking today because it's so powerful, I will also talk about and give a few little hints about physical networking, because at some point you're still going to have to do that as well. And it's important to do. And I do have some tips. I can give you some ideas of what I do when I go onto these events. But I can assure you, I'm more than happy to work the room. But what I am also is exactly the same. I feel exactly the same as every single one of you. I go in there and dread it. Absolutely do. And that first initial thing, I'd rather be anywhere else. I really don't really want to do it. I'm really out of my comfort zone. I don't really want to do this. Who are all these people? But I know why I'm there. I know what I've got to try and achieve. And I go and do that. But we'll talk about that in a second. I want to just finish, if I may, just on these 3 pillars. So the first one is making sure that you got your profile done. So make sure that's optimized. Once you've done that, then you need to make sure that your next part is going to be your content creation. So all the things that we've been talking about here, every week we talk about how to create content, what you need to be doing. It's not that, you're not there. I'm not suggesting that you need to be an influencer. That's not what it's about. Not everybody's going to be doing that. All it's about is that you're just going to be sharing just some insights, some of your own personal experiences, the lessons that you've learned. It's fine to have an opinion on something that's happened in work and what there is. Some of the touch points in your target market. In your market, you'll know the kind of problems that come up that are really common. And it'll all be slightly different, whether you're in banking, whether you're in healthcare, whether, whatever area it is, and whatever discipline you do, whether you're in marketing, finance, etc. You'll know what the common problems are. Talk about them and talk about how to solve them. Now, you don't need to be giving away any of your potential business secrets, company secrets from before. No, what you're doing is you're giving valuable insight about how to solve these kind of common problems. And the reason why you're doing that is that when you're producing that content, you want your target audience to be looking at that and thinking and resonating with them, thinking, well, I have the exact same problem. And then they'll start seeing you as an expert in your field, where you have got credibility. And not only do you get that credibility by creating that content, you're going to start to increase your visibility as well. The more that you start doing this, the more that you're going to start getting recognized. And at the end of the day, people hire people that they recognize and they trust. And the more that you do that, you'll start getting that familiarity. And it's going to be 1,000 times more than you ever will by sending applications only out to people. Foxy, building trust is always about exposure. I've read a bunch of YouTube success books saying that you can't expect any results until the audience trusts you, and they need to have watched around 20 videos before that starts to happen. I mean, absolutely. And it's a really good point. And I know also, Foxy, that's my prompt, isn't it? To say to everybody, as I do on my weekly advertising bit, which I do for no financial recompense whatsoever. If you haven't caught it, go and catch Foxy's Lab. I'm sure Foxy will put a link into Foxy's Lab, which is his YouTube channel. It is amazing to see. And especially as I always talk about the journey that Foxy's gone on from somebody who last year was, by his own admission, an introvert. I don't want to put myself out there. I can never see myself creating content. I don't want to do videos or things like that, to creating a really successful video channel on YouTube, which has really contributed to that future success. If he can do it, I can do it, you can do it. You all can do this, but it does mean a little bit of stepping outside of your comfort zone, which I know is not the easiest thing to do. Okay. And then number 3, look, is engagement. So that's that third element. So we've optimized our profile. We're creating content. The next thing to do is to start to engage with your audience as well. And that is the most underrated LinkedIn strategy, the one that I love the most, the one that LinkedIn loves the most as well, which is comments. It is probably the easiest way to create content. And if you're worried about doing that, to start getting yourself into the game, commenting on posts creates massive visibility. You can see how many impressions you get from every comment that you put on there. You can see what it is, but it's really important that when you're doing that, that it's good networking, and good networking means that you've got to provide insight. You've got to provide value. It's not great post, congratulations, many thanks. No, it's about adding more to it. So it's describing the post that they've had there, how that resonates with you, whether that's something that you've shared as well, adding another perspective for it. You don't have to agree either. You can respectfully disagree with something, say, actually, I've tried this and I found that's a little bit more effective. But absolutely create that, create conversation. That's how you start getting a lot of visibility. And the first thing that people will do when they see that kind of comment and they don't know who you are, they will click on your name and they'll go and have a look at your profile, which is why that it's so important that the first thing you do is make sure that your profile is absolutely on point. Greg, good to see you. My strategy is focused on 2 posts a week, 5 comments a day, and reach out to each person who looks at my profile with a, I noticed you look at my profile, thoughts. I think that's really good. It's great. Consistency is key. And absolutely you can increase that. That there is, don't ever feel, I know there's a lot of people out there that will sit there and say, you only have to do 1 post a week, 2 posts a week, and you don't need to do hundreds of posts or hundreds of comments. It's a nonsense. I can tell you now that LinkedIn will love it if you're producing tons of it. But, and there is a but, only if it's good quality content. So quality will beat quantity every single time. So what you've done there, Greg, I think is fantastic. It's really good because the thing that shouts to me is it's consistent. And the consistency is what will get you noticed. Is that the more that you're making sure that you're doing something every day, you're commenting on your bit, you're reaching out to people who've done that, absolutely. And that's that next part to it, which is ensuring, and you did this point here of somebody who's reached out to you looked at your profile. You've got to then go and reach out to them. Bear in mind that 7 points before someone trusts you. And it can be they've read a piece of content, they've responded, they've looked at you, you've messaged them on one bit, you've commented on another. You have to put the work in. It isn't just that I'm just going to send one message and they're magically going to say, I've got a job and I want you to come and interview for it. No, you do have to put some work in. So absolutely, I think that's a really good start there, Greg. The only thing that I would turn around, and I'm guilty of it as well, because you have to really put time in to do it. I would stress that if you want to increase anything, is not necessarily on your posts. You still can do if you really want to, but comments, absolutely, you can 10x that. Absolutely, you could 10x that. It's the one thing that you have to put in time in your diary to do it. I put calendar times, and if I've got a busy week in work, it can really struggle to do it. But absolutely make sure that commenting is super high because it provides so much visibility. Michael, few months into creating content and building my own presence, congratulations. A challenge for me is that posts don't get massive reach or generate much in terms of comments. Okay. That's quite normal to start off with, is the first and foremost. I'd ask a question, Michael. When you, I don't know because I'm not looking at your profile on here, but how many followers have you got? How many people do you engage with? So as part of that, what you can do to try and get that, what I would suggest is when you create content, assuming that you're creating content regularly, consistently. So you'll have to make sure that the content that you're creating, that you're doing a number of posts each week, and the comments that you're making is every single day. If you're not doing that, then you're not doing your little bit to drive traffic into it. So it's important to drive traffic to come and see you and see what you're doing. And that's what you will start to push comments. If you're not getting comments, there could be, there's other reason that you could get for that. I'm sure it's not in your case, but maybe the people that are looking at your posts don't like them. and it might be that. So what I would suggest is go back on your posts that you've done, the content you've done, and do a quick audit. So go and have a look back on it and see the ones where people have interacted. Go and see the ones where you have had a few comments, or you've had more likes than normal, that you've got a few more views than normal. The market is telling you then they like that. And it might be the style that you wrote, it might be the subject that you wrote, but it started to resonate. And that can then give you an idea of, okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to expand that subject. I'm going to talk a little bit more, or I'm going to do it in that kind of style. So maybe look at it like that. So constantly review what you're doing, because every piece of content, and what I do when I look at mine, absolutely, we all love the ones that really take off and do hundreds of thousands or millions. You think, oh, what whoop-de-doo, isn't that wonderful? But content creators don't tell you about the ones that only got a few hundred. They didn't do anything. It just didn't land. And they'll try and forget about it. For me, I will look at any of those ones and think, why did that not land? What was it that I did wrong? Clearly, people weren't interested in it. Clearly, there was something that, whether it might have been a different style that I wrote it. So what I try to do is adapt that, learn from it. So constantly learn. You know, everybody out there is will give you those lessons back. So I think it's really important to do that. Yana, hi. Good to see you as well. So for me, 6 weeks, 188 connections, 24,000 impressions, 0 ads, excuse me, just showing up daily and commenting with genuine value on right posts. You're absolutely right. The value comes first always. The impressions follow the consistency, not the other way around. Absolutely. So create value. And that's sort of going back to sort of Greg's point, is like, look, push more value out there, because that's absolutely what people want to see. I was talking about this earlier, in that, you know, people will look at it, whatever problem that they've got. If you've got a leak in your house, you've got a pipe that's burst, water going everywhere, you want a plumber, I can tell you. And you may not be spending time on LinkedIn viewing, but you get my point. If you're going on there, you're going to want to see content from people who are talking about how to fix leaks, how to do that, the expertise in plumbing, and they're talking all about that. And if you've seen all of that, suddenly you know where you're going to go to, but you're not going to be remotely interested in somebody who's telling you about how to buy a new car, or finance, or you're not going to be interested. So make sure that you are adding value to your target market, your area, the problems that people have in your area. Talk their language. And the best way, if you're not sure what to do, the best way to do it is to then go and map out who your market is. So that means the companies you've worked for before, follow them. The companies that were competitors of those, follow those. And then start following and connecting with the people who are in your particular industry. And then start looking at the content that they're producing, because that will then give you, and you can then see how many people are responding. No one's responding to those ones. People obviously aren't interested, but you're getting a lot of response for this particular subject. There you go. I can start talking about that. And don't feel like because you've seen somebody else's post that's done super well that you can't talk about that. Of course you can. Absolutely. You put your own spin. If you want to create your own content on it, I've done plenty of posts where I've been inspired by somebody else. I've been inspired by something I've read, and I want to put my own spin on it, what my thoughts are, add my value to it. Do that for yourself, because you will all have that as well. And that's what I think is really good. And it'll start to create those conversations. It's not going to happen immediately, but you will start getting conversations starting to go as well. Ruth, just to ensure it is your content and not AI can write you a comment, but ensure that it is you writing in your style. 100%, Ruth. I've got no issue with anybody using whatever AI tool it is, whether it is ChatGPT, Gemini, Croc, whatever. I don't mind at all what you use, but absolutely, as Ruth has said, make sure that you rewrite it, and you put it in your style. Use it as something to inspire, not to replace. It's not there just for you to cut and paste it and put it in. I can tell with a lot of people, I can see the comments when I think, you know, you just know that's an AI generated comment. I can see some of the posts where they're AI generated and they've just cut and pasted and put them in. So don't feel tempted to do that. AI will absolutely help you to go leaping forward in creating your content, giving you inspiration, giving you ideas. Absolutely. But I think it's really important that you're authentic, your authentic self. And make sure that you're doing that. I want to also talk about is AI helpful for us or not? Yes, it is. It is absolutely 100% is helpful when you use it the right way. So use it as your assistant. So think of it as I've employed somebody who is going to sit with me and I'm going to ask them, can you come up with some ideas about what I should post this week? Give me a content calendar based on what you know about me, based on this particular subject level. You know, give me some ideas. Now, you wouldn't say to your assistant, go off and just start writing posts for me on my behalf, and I'm not going to bother looking at them and checking. You probably wouldn't. Most people think, well, I want to check what you've written. I want to make sure that you've not said something crazy, and you're going to do that. So use it to inspire and use it as a way of creating content if you wish, but just rewrite it, edit it, put it in your style. That's what's really, really important as well. Then the next part of it is then how you then connect with people. So there's a lot of people that you can follow. There's two different ways that you connect with people on LinkedIn. Either you follow, and you can follow as many people as you like, or you can directly connect with people. And direct connections, you can only have up to 30,000. So most of us will probably have more than enough connections there to do it, but use those strategically. The follow ones are going to be interesting. I would make sure that you follow, especially the more influential, the people who are creating good content in your fields, the things that you're interested in, because that will help inspire you. Ones that have big responses to and get a lot of impressions, get a lot of comments to, make sure you add into that, get into the conversation as well. That provides a lot of stuff, but make sure that when you are connecting with people, don't just send a message. If you're going for your title, so let's say that you are a marketing associate and you've seen a marketing director who put a post and you thought, oh, I'd really love to work at that company. I want to send a connection request to them because I've already commented on that person's post. What you might say, you're not just going to send the connection request. You're obviously not going to send a connection request saying I'm looking for a job. But what you could say is, really enjoyed your recent post about XYZ. It really resonated with me because it's something that I've had experience with before. I did exactly the same, had the same issue. And just like you, this is how we solved it. Be great to connect. And that's it. So you're showing a little bit of value. You're not asking for anything back whatsoever other than just the connection. So that's, I think, a much better way of creating warm conversations rather than constantly cold. Matthew, great to see you as well. I've noticed that since the beginning of March, I'm getting less impressions for similar style and content. Any idea why? Without looking, I can't tell, but we could have a look and do that. And I know I say this each week, but this week I think we should do this next week. We can do some content audits and have a look specifically to do that. So look, it can be a number of different things it can do. So it won't be. So the first thing, don't worry about the timing that you're sending it out. That doesn't have a great deal of effect. The way that LinkedIn tends to work is that, as you can see, you often get to see people's posts and content that is a week old, 2 weeks old, sometimes 3 weeks old. That still keeps happening. So it's less important about the timing of when you do it. But I would probably still say, if you're in the UK, for instance, I'd probably try and do it in the times that you think, first thing in the morning, lunchtime, evening, when people probably are going to be flicking through and might see it. But then also, you should just do that audit, have a little look and think, is this a good post that I've written? Is it something that's interesting? Is it easy to read? Have you created a good hook at the top? And whether we like it or not, look, we're not writing a War and Peace here. We're not going to try and get a Booker Prize for anything that you've written here. What you're trying to do is do that same kind of thing that newspapers do. They'll have a hook to try and bring you in to read the article. The hook has got to be something that stops you. So it's, if you can imagine, look, we all go on our phones, and that's how most people are going to be consuming LinkedIn, as we do with most social media, and we'll be flicking through on that, and we will just scroll through. You're only going to see the top headline bit. And so we will think about how you do it, how you consume content. You'll do that, and then suddenly something will make you stop. And it could be a picture that you think, oh, that's strange, that's interesting. It could be a video that you think, oh, that's interesting. That's let's have a look at that. Or it could be, if it's just a text bit, that first couple of lines that you see there has said something that's resonated with you, has made you stop and think, that's interesting. And then you click the more button and have a look. And that's what you got to. So I think a lot of the times where you have difficulty in getting traction, there is a lot that you can do on that first hook there as well. If you're not sure how to write them, write your whole article, cut and paste that, put it into ChatGPT, for instance, and say, here's my article. I'd like a really good, compelling hook. Write this as if I am an expert in whatever field it is you have. Give me 5 or 6 styles of hooks, and then it'll give you some, and that will give you some inspiration. And I think it'll absolutely help to do that. While you're doing it, there is a way to look through it. Make sure it's easy to read. If you're compacting it all too much, the way we've been conditioned nowadays, everything's sort of bullet pointy. It's got there's space in between, because people like to find it easy to read. If it's too much there and there's a big paragraph there, people tend generally not to want to read it. It looks too complex. When they're scrolling through, we've been conditioned on social media, less so on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's becoming like that, is that we've just been conditioned that we just want to look at things that are easier, simple. It's not going to take too much of my time. It's not going to tire me out. And text content is exactly like that. So make sure that it's easy to read when you're doing it, and a really good call to action at the end. Ask them to do something at the end. It could be just asking a question, or it could be click the link in the comments, or it could be, what do you think about this? Whatever it might be on that, but make sure that you ask the question at the end. It does make a difference for that as well. So look, there's some really good questions here that we've got there. And I think that I also want to mention a little bit in terms of what we need to do in terms of doing some more follow-up. And follow-up strategy, I think, is really important as well. We've talked and mentioned that briefly a little bit, that we've been talking about how you continue to make sure that you're reaching out to people and what you need to do. But follow-up in terms of networking on LinkedIn and getting real conversations is vital. So it isn't just about, I'm going to create my content, I'm going to do one comment, I might do a couple of messages to people. It's having that full strategy, that it's constant. And when you see people who are, this is my target, I know I want to speak to this, but I want to go for this company, make sure you've got your spreadsheet, your Trello board, whatever it might be that you have there, and you're constantly engaging, you're constantly doing it in different ways. And engaging can be the comments you put on their posts, the content that you're producing, which will resonate with them, the messages that you can send to them as well. All of those ways of doing it. But remember, that key part. There's 7 touch points that you've got to have to make for each of those individuals before you have started to gain their trust and what they have there. Now I'm going to mention about physical. I can also see in the comments there as well. I'm sorry if as usual, that you're having too much of a lag on this wonderful thing that is LinkedIn Live. I know that LinkedIn probably need to try and sort that out. StreamYard isn't fantastic at it. We are looking and we are trying, just by the way, we are going to be trying and looking at different platforms to try and do it. But a lot of it is just the way that LinkedIn Live works on this. So there is a little bit of a lag sometimes. And sometimes I know I look like I'm sitting there and then suddenly go off and do something else. But we are also doing a lot more video, not only here, but we're doing a lot more on the Get Hired group. If you've not joined the Get Hired group, James will put a link into the comments there. Make sure you do. There's plenty more content there as well. And we're also doing a lot more on YouTube. We're doing, if you don't follow, please make sure you do. We're producing a lot of shorts and a lot of interesting and hopefully humorous content, as well as a lot of question and answers. We're doing some coffee sessions where all we're doing is just getting questions. So here it is me just speaking. Those sessions we're doing is just constant questions coming through and me just answering a lot of those as well. So I want to just have one final bit that we'll do right at the end, which is that physical side to it, which I know that a lot of you find particularly tough out there. And I think a few of you have mentioned this, that you go out and you go to this amazing event that you're going to go to, and you get there, and as soon as you walk in the door and you're just met with hundreds of people who all seem to be talking, because you hear that murmur, don't you? You hear that murmur that's going on, and you're just sat there a little bit like a lemon thinking, okay, right, fine, I've got to try and network. How do I do this? Yeah, okay, I'll go and get myself a drink, or there's some little chocolate muffins there. I'll just hang around there and maybe have one or two. And the fear is in there, and I don't want to put myself out, and I don't know anyone here at all. So what am I going to do? That is absolutely natural. And I can, as I say before, I can tell you every single event I go to, I go through the same process where I think exactly that. A few techniques I do. What I know is that once, like anything with it, any kind of issue you have, whether it is getting into a freezing cold swimming pool, or whether it's going into networking, once you're in, like you are in the cold water, once you get in, you jump in, it suddenly feels warm. You don't even think about it. It just goes on. And networking physically is a bit like that as well. It's the cold water plunge. You've got to just get in there and go and do that. Now, there's a few techniques that I use in order to do that. So I might think, right, I'm probably going to need a drink. I can see the food there. That looks quite nice. What I'm going to do is do some easy ones to do. So I might go and get a drink, speak to the person who's actually working there, who's delivering them out. I know I don't need to network, but it's forcing me to start to talk, to actually talk to somebody. So I'm going to have an easy conversation. They're always going to do that. They're not going to worry. I get my comment. I've started talking. There might be somebody next to me who's having a chocolate, one of the chocolate muffins. What do you recommend? Do you think the muffins or the donuts? What do you reckon's better? And they'll start talking to you. So then you can start having that comment. So it's about starting, I find, in a way of getting your mouth moving to start talking. And it doesn't matter who you're talking to in the first 5 minutes, just start talking to people. And then once you've done that, you can then move on. Obviously, there will be lots of other people in exactly the same position as you. You make that, check the room, see the person who's on their own, just go over to them and say hi. And say the same. This is frightening, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I always feel awkward in these places. That'll break the ice. Invariably, they will turn around and say, I know exactly what you mean. And then you have a conversation. Hi, I'm Nigel, by the way. This is what I do. And they'll introduce themselves. So the more that you do that, the more likely you are to get into that mode where you can just talk. So do those light little introductions. And that's how I do it. And the other thing that technique I do is, before I've gone there, I have a real plan about what it is that I want to achieve at these things. So just in the old days when I used to go with my business cards, and I think I'm going to collect as many business cards as I want. And that's what I want to try and get 200 business cards, what I do. So in my head, it was just, I'm just collecting business cards of people. It was like a game for me. Here, and what it did was it made me prompt to go and speak to people, because I thought all I need to do is just get a business card. But in actual fact, I started talking, and I naturally had that conversation. In these sort of events, clearly most people don't have business cards or anything else like that, but you can in the same way do things like connecting on LinkedIn. Actually, I'm going to see if I can, at a game, I'm going to get 50 new connections at this place. How do I do that? I've got my LinkedIn here. I can do that. I can start scanning it. That's fine. We can do all of that kind of stuff. So maybe little things that you can do that are particularly easy. You think it's not a major thing. I'm not trying to sign £1 million contract somewhere. I just want to do something simple. And it'll start having those conversations. I can assure you that once you start doing that, it becomes super easy. What you'll also find is the people you've been chatting to, whether it's, do you prefer the donuts or the muffins, they'll introduce you to someone else and you just naturally have a conversation with them. And like everything that we've talked about with networking, the bit that is really good is that people want conversations. People get frightened when they think that you're going to be selling to them. They're getting the hard stuff, that you're trying to force a CV onto them or you're trying to sell them or something. No, it's just a natural conversation. And the way you have those conversations is be interested in them. The fact is that when you're networking in any of these bits, and it's the same both online and it's the same in physical, if you have a mindset that I'm not interested in giving any information about I'm just interested in the person I'm speaking to. What do they do? Who are they? What do they find interesting? What are the problems they're having? All of those different things. But just ask them, let them do the talking. And if you do that, I can tell you they will magically think that you're the most interesting person in the room as well, without you having said anything. So there's no onus on you to sell anything. And that's where good conversations will happen. Okay, right. If you wrote a book, Nigel, I'd totally buy it. Yeah, I should write a book. I should do. I've still got more books in me. It's about sitting down and making sure I do that. I think what I actually should do, I think my style of writing the book, I love speaking, and I think that, so I'm constantly looking at stuff. I spend most of my time, if I'm asking questions, especially on ChatGPT, everything is voice. I'm doing more and more voice stuff to do it like that rather than typing like that. I could probably do an audio book, but maybe do that. Look, we're coming towards the end now. Thank you so much to everyone. Yet again, we've rattled through. I hope it's been a really interesting session for you all. I know that networking is something that all of us find particularly scary, both online and physically. But hopefully you can see I've given some real tips here. It's not something to be afraid of. It is absolutely something that we can do. And the massive benefit that it can provide for you for LinkedIn and getting a job, in fact, in anything in your career, in enhancing your career, getting new contracts, getting new jobs, getting, enhancing and developing yourself, 100%. If you start mastering that, you will do fabulously well. Great to see you all as ever. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that the static or whatever has happened in terms of some technical issues that we have as ever on here didn't harm it too much. Have a fabulous weekend. I hope it gets a little bit warmer. Hopefully by this time next week, we shall have some sun again. Enjoy the weekend. See you soon. Take care. Cheers.